everybody. I'm Chismosa and I'm here with
Denali with a J.
And last week we made something really good, which was what is it called actually? Beignets.
Beignet?
That's what it's called. Those weird fried.
When did we make beignet?
When we were in the north. That fried dessert thingy that didn't.
Oh, the weird donut things?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were basically donuts.
They're donuts, but they're beignets. Because, well,
I don't know what a beignet is, but I know what a donut is.
The thing is, you guys didn't want to cut them into squares.
We did cut them in squares eventually.
And the squares anyways, but they were delicious-ish. Actually, let's be real. They were a donut, so they can't be bad.
Yeah.
But they weren't.
There's a lot of sugar.
There was a lot of sugar, but also in some ways not enough sugar because we didn't have any powdered sugar, so...
Yeah, we couldn't put any powdered sugar after we fried them.
If we had put powdered sugar on it, then I think it would actually be delicious.
Yes. Then they would have been very good.
We're really, really being yeah, they would have actually been. We're doing mathematical calculation as to how good they would have been.
5% more sugar in there.
The point is, they were decent, but when you make your own beignets, put powdered sugar on them. Actually, in general, add sugar to things. So we put a lot of sugar in the beignets, even though we didn't have any sugar on them, which was kind of sad. But
It was like crack.
If we had put sugar, it would have been like crack.
But it wasn't like crack.
But you know what was like crack?
Mandrakes.
I'm sure you've never heard of them, but don't worry, we're going to explain.
We're going to tell you all about them.
All about them. In today's episode, which is called
Drugs and Sex. But last week we ended with Jacob marrying these two sisters, which were also his cousins, and who he had been living with for 7 years, and he couldn't tell which one was which the day of the wedding, and he accidentally consummated with the wrong one.
Whoops.
And then married the right one. Things obviously didn't go smoothly after that rocky start. And the biggest problem was that Leah apparently was the only one that could have kids.
So Rachel got all the looks. But that one was empty, baby. She's barren. Okay, she's infertile. It's not anything to make a joke about, but it's true. And Leah was just having kids left and right. Leah had Reuben, and she followed it up with Levi. And then she had Simeon. And then she had Judah. Yes, that's the lion of the tribe of Judah. And she was just like, wow, I'm having son after son after son. She had Dinah at some point. Okay, no one cares about Dinah. Dinah's a girl. But the point is, she was fertile. And Rachel was definitely not. Rachel was so distraught by this harsh reality, which makes perfect sense. I mean, it's sad even now, but even the context of the time and place they were living in, to not have any children was horrible. It's the worst thing that could happen-ish to an adult married woman. And so Rachel was so distraught that she came crying to Jacob at one point and was like, I'm so sad. This sucks so bad. Just crying and weeping. And what did Jacob tell her? Jacob, the nice guy and great husband that he is.
He said, "Who do you think I am, God?" He's like, I can't make you fertile. Obviously, I'm doing my part, and it's not working. So.
Yes. I didn't even say it properly. She came to him, super dramatic, by the way, and was like, "Give me children, or I die." And Jacob was like, "Girl, sis, stop. Clearly, it's not anything I can give you because I'm giving all I have to give, and it's not working. Problem is with you." Anyways, Rachel was not assuaged. Everything is still topsy-turvy. She's not happy. And Leah's just kind of side-eyeing her. And Rachel's like, you know what? I can't live this life of inferiority forever. I need something that kind of, it may not be exactly the same, but it'll have to do in the situation. So she takes Bilhah, who is her servant, more like slave, that her father gave to her and Jacob when she was to be married to Jacob. And she brings Bilhah to Jacob, and she's like, Jacob, I know you've been looking at her for a long time, just kidding. And she's like, Jacob, can you please have sex with her? Please, so that she will have a child, and that child will be mine, ours. It'll be my progeny, because she's my servant/slave. And Jacob was like, well, if you insist. Only because you're begging me to. Only because of that. And so he does. And they have a child. Or two. They actually have two. at least. And those children are added as kind of quasi-ish, definitely, but let's all be real, not really, Rachel's children. So Rachel's like, okay, that's better than nothing. And then what happens?
Well, then Leah saw what was happening. She wasn't having any more kids. Also, I have to point out, in case you think we're just like being unfair to the situation, it says in the beginning the reason why she was having kids is God gave her kids because he saw she was hated. So like, if you weren't sure about what Jacob's position on his first wife was, it was hate. It's not like any like, oh well, it wasn't too big on no. It's like because she was hated, God decided to give her kids. But eventually that ran out. She wasn't having kids anymore. And she saw her sister was having her slave have kids in her stead, outsourcing. And she's like, well, two can play that game.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, I also have a servant. And she was like, and I also can have kids by proxy. And so she was like, yo, Jacob, so I saw you have a thing with sleeping with slaves now. And Jacob's like, what? No, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, how about mine? He's like, okay. And so Leah's slave, Zilpah, had a son, and then she had a second son. And so then Leah's servant also had two sons. So basically Leah beat Rachel again.
Rachel's back at square one. And also, like, we have to note, even though you just said something a little bit, you were kind of saying something a little bit, like, kind towards Leah, like she was hated, and so God, like, made her womb super fertile, and she's just popping out kids left and right. Leah's a little weird, like everyone in this story. When Zilpah, her slave, had the second son, who was Asher. You probably remember Asher in the list of the 12 sons and the 12 tribes. Leah's reaction was otherworldly amazing. Leah named him because the wives get to name, because the slaves are just vessels. Watch The Handmaid's Tale if you need to know about that. Leah named him Asher, and she literally was like, this is the greatest moment of my life. I'm so happy. She's like, I'm so happy. Happy am I. And other women also call me happy. She's basically like, all the hating hoes all know that, like, I'm the happiest and my life rocks and I'm the best because I've had sons and my slaves have had sons and we're just all walking around with our XY chromosome children. And Rachel was like, darn it. Man. Back to square one.
Like Leah, like she had a bunch of sons. Like she didn't need any more, but she just saw that Rachel was having two sons by her slave, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you think you can do that? Watch what I can do." And then she had two, and then as soon as she tied, she was like, "Oh, I'm so happy! It's the best day of my life. Finally, my sister's accomplishments are completely washed out."
Like two, she needed to have two because Bill also had two. It's amazing.
And after that, she's like, "Oh, we're good now."
Pathetic. She didn't ask. She wasn't pushing Zilpah to have sex more with Jacob. No.
Yeah.
Sad.
Anyway, so then what happened was apparently a good amount of time had passed with all these child-having years.
Poor Jacob.
And so Reuben, the oldest son, was getting a little bit older, and he was wandering out in the field one day, and he found mandrakes, which is a type of plant that grows in the Mediterranean region. And if you take the root and you harvest it, you can make like a narcotic hallucinogen out of it. I'm guessing he was probably like teenager or whatever, and he found them, and his first thought was, you know who would really like these? My mom. So man, you're just like walking down the streets and some guy just like, you just like find a good opportunity to pick up some narcotics. You're like, you know who would really like these? My mom. So you just like bring them back to your mom.
Yeah. Fair. Good point.
But also he just knew his mom was really going to like these. So he brought them back to his mom. But then Rachel, Reuben's aunt, found out.
If you will.
Yeah. His aunt / stepmom. What is that called?
Dude.
Co-mother? We're co-parenting.
Taking co-parenting to a whole other level.
Okay, these inbred hicks were slinging dope and bringing it back to their mom. And then their aunt, like classic trash, was like, yo, give me some of that shit.
Called it trash. Amazing.
And, living in their little tents, basically like trailers, Leah was like, wait, so you're going to take my son / your nephews
Did they know it was a narcotic? Maybe not, but it has all
I
kinds
mean, they
of...
were willing to trade a good amount for it, so pretty sure they knew.
Yeah, well, the plant has had, or is alleged to have had, all kinds of like... So some people have used it for like... It's a weird plant that is both has some narcotic properties and also has some like spiritual, cultural, weird, ritualistic significance. People say that it has been used historically in Jewish culture as like some kind of love potion or love plant.
So all our Jewish viewers, if that's not true,
Write to us.
write to us.
That the roots look like human forms. I mean, it's really weird. Actually, maybe we can try mandrake live on camera when we decide to film ourselves.
I don't.
Yes, do it. He's gonna do it. Will you do it?
If we reach 500,000 subscribers,
We'll try mandrake live.
I'll do it
Woo!
live.
High
Yes.
five.
I'm pretty sure I'm safe. That's never gonna happen.
Okay, you heard it here, folks. If you want to see Denali tripping balls off the mandrake, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button.
Anyway, Rachel saw it and she was like, I want that. Like, give it to me. And Leah was like, what?
Leah's reaction is top tier. Leah's like, you've taken everything from me. What do you even want me to do with my life? What is there for me to have? You take my husband's love from me, even though it's like, really, she didn't take it.
I don't think Leah ever had it.
You never had it. He'll never give it to you. And she didn't take it. He like thrusted it on her. It's like not even clear how she really feels about him. He's just like obsessed, or was. Anyways, Leah's like, you took everything from me. What do you even want me to do in my life? Even though it's like, Leah, you have all these bazillion sons and surrogate sons. What are you talking about? And she's like, you took away my husband. Do you want to take my son's mandrakes? Are they on the same level of importance? What are you talking about right now, Leah? You're crazy.
Well, I don't know, like, I feel like Rachel kind of thought she kind of agreed, because she was like, okay, you know what?
Good
That's
point.
a fair point. Like, I agree with you. So how about we work out a deal? The deal is, you give me the drugs, okay? And then when Jacob comes back from the fields today, I'll tell him to sleep with you instead of me.
Oh, which is really the most tragic part of the story, and I literally shudder because it's like, Leah, you accepted that deal? Damn, how lonely are you? Like, he's only going there because Rachel told him. Clearly, I mean, it's actually amazing because in the previous verse, we said, and it says in the Bible, that Leah saw that she had ceased bearing children. But as we'll soon find out, okay, maybe I'm kind of bearing the lead here, but after Jacob goes to hang out with her, wink, wink, to know her in the biblical sense of the word that night when Rachel convinces him to so she can get her drugs, Rachel's being like a pimp, like a, what is it, a madame? Being like, can you please go and have sex with this person so I can get something
Also,
I need?
but like, that's not how it happened. Like, that's what they agreed on, right? They were like, okay, then here's the deal. Like, you give me the drugs, all right? And then you get to have sex with our husband. Right, exactly. And so what happened was Jacob was coming back, and Leah went out to meet him and said, you have to have sex with me because I hired you with my son's drugs. She's like...
She can't even say herself.
She's like, you're my younger sister, also your wife, just pimped you out for drugs. And now you have to sleep with me. And Jacob was like...
Damn.
What?
Jacob was like cold world. Also, I mean, it's literally disgusting. Leah's like excitement is like palpable. She goes out to meet him. Sis, can't you even wait in the house and pretend to be coy? Pretend that like this is the best moment of your life? Why are you so pathetic? Why? You have the bazillion sons. Why are you so thirsty? He's never gonna love you. Stop trying. I mean, it's so embarrassing for every party involved. Maybe except Rachel, who's being like a pimp. She's cool. But like everyone else is like tragic. Just embarrassing, humiliating. But after Jacob knows her in the biblical sense of the word, after his younger wife, prostitutes him out to his older wife, who's also her older sister.
Wait, can I just say, like, how, like, Jacob just goes along with this? Like his wife comes out and is like, by the way, I bought sex with you for tonight. And Jacob was like, okay, sounds fair.
Jacob is so passive about his private parts. You can bring anyone. First of all, he doesn't look at the face.
We know that's true.
Second of all, you can bring anyone to him and be like, this is your wife now. And he'll be like, all right, okay, lift up your skirt. Like, it's like, dude, it's okay. You don't have to always say yes. You can say no sometimes. I don't really get it. He has sex with anyone who you bring to him and it tells him, have sex with them. And he's like, fine, this is my wife. Or fine, I will have sex with her. When they do, everything is good. Leah actually conceives and gives birth to another son. And Leah, who is so good with names, just like she named Asher after her slave had Asher, because she's like, I'm so happy and my life is so lit. When she finally had another kid of her own, like like biologically, like from her own womb, she named him Issachar. And she kind of said that God has given me my wages because I gave my servant to my husband. She had some explanation for it. My point is, Leah could conceive. So when it said previously that Leah had ceased bearing children, maybe you would be under the impression, okay, she's had a bunch of kids, maybe she's not fertile anymore, maybe she's menopausal. But no, she ceased bearing kids because Jacob ceased sleeping with her. And the moment he slept with her again, she had another kid. And apparently the person holding the keys is Rachel. Rachel can literally... I mean, everything about it is so bizarre. I kind of don't even know what to say, except to say that this story is the weirdest story I've read in the Bible in a long time. And when you find out that mandrakes are hallucinogens, it actually makes it less weird. Mandrake was just some kind of fruit. You'd be like, what? But like, if it's a hallucinogen, okay, I get it. Rachel had a lot on her mind and she needed to kind of go to another place. So while Leah and Jacob were doing whatever they needed to do, Rachel was like somewhere tripping. She was seeing purple or whatever in the sky, happy with her mandrakes. What do you think?
Part of me thinks she was just there tripping in the same tent.
Hopefully it was in another. I think they had their own tents. Probably a different tent. Maybe she was outside in the fields.
I don't know.
Just like, dude.
She was shooting up.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, after that, then Leah had another child. And then only after that, like only after all this happens, so like many years have gone past. Like, I don't even know how long. Only then, finally, at the very end, does Rachel finally have a kid. Calls his name Joseph.
Yes, God remembered her, and that's the way the Bible puts it, and he opened her womb, and thus she had the famous Joseph, coat of many colors Joseph, Egypt Joseph, etc., etc., etc. Joseph.
Yeah.
We all know him. We all love him. Yeah, they're good with names. All these moms. My favorite is still Asher. Happy am I. I'm so happy. So, like, have you watched *Handmaid's Tale*? That's
the first season, yeah.
That's literally what it reminds me of. Like, but actually, I guess.
I mean, there's a reason.
In her case, she was happy, unlike those wives who are like, oh, they feel some kind of way about it. She was like there at the birth of Asher and like pulled him out of her slave's womb herself and was like, yes.
She's like, suck it, bitches. Even my slaves are fertile.
I mean, it's like, lady,
you can't stop us.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, that just shows how everything in life, like, social currency is everything. Like, is there even any innate emotion? If having sons is social currency and then they're kind of microcosm of a world, her sister was like a loser, couldn't have kids, and when she finally tried to kind of climb her way out of that loser status by making her slaves have kids, Leah was like, hell no, my slaves will have kids too, so that it's like neutralized, and basically now you're back to square one and you have no kids, at least none compared to me. It's tragic. It shows that there's nothing fundamental in human nature. Because she doesn't feel jealous, she doesn't feel any kind of way. She literally feels happy because this increases her social currency and their insane universe.
Yeah, their weird world.
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, but I kind of love it, but it's depressing.
Yeah. Like, the story of Rachel and her not having kids in a way kind of gets worse. Because then she, after a while, so, like, she must be really old at this point. Because Joseph has already like grown up at least into like teenage years before this even happens. And she had Joseph a little bit later in life. But after that, she does get pregnant for the second and final time.
You know, not to be sacrilegious, but it's kind of like when God opened her womb, he didn't like just bust the gates open. He just like opened to the crack. Like an egg or two could possibly slip through every decade.
Yeah.
But nothing on the Leah scale.
Yeah, pretty much. But so she does eventually get pregnant, like after a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's having that child, she's in labor, and it says it's a very hard labor, and the midwife is like, "Don't worry, you're gonna have another son." And she's literally dying. And like, 'cause it's very bad. Because like, I mean, like it was more common historically for people to die in childbirth, especially
Sure.
women. For men, pretty uncommon. But anyway, so she was like, it was like very bad, and like she was dying, right, as she's having this child, and her midwife's just like, "Don't worry, you have another son."
Rachel's
Finally.
like, yes, I'm so happy. Yay.
Yeah, actually not. She was like, well, as she's dying, and her midwife's like, "You have another son." She's like, "Okay, we'll call him Ben Onai," which means, son of my pain, basically.
Yeah.
Then she dies, having her second child. Yeah, and she said she wanted, on her way out, she wanted him to be named the son of pain or sorrow or whatever. But luckily for that kid, his father changed it to Benjamin, which kind of means like son of joy or whatever, because Benjamin was happy he had a son, even though his favorite wife just died. So
he was happy also probably to have a son from his favorite wife. He's like, "Thanks, sweetie." He went out in a blaze of glory.
yeah, plus because like at this point he thought Joseph was dead, so he was under the impression that Joseph was dead, so he had no children from the wife he actually liked.
Pretty one, the hot one.
When she was dying, he finally got a son from her, and so he was happy that, I don't know, at least he had a son while his wife died.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually grow up getting called son of pain,
Mm-hmm.
The boy who killed his mother. Instead, he was called the boy who made his daddy happy. So
yeah.
and that is
Jacob decided to look at the silver lining.
that is how that story ends. Moral.
Moral is like the exact, it's like when you go and you're writing in Google Docs, you right click it and then you click antonym. This story is the antonym of the word
Yeah, I don't
moral.
think this story does not have any morals in it. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's amoral, it's immoral, it's everything that is not moral. Because it's like, it's weirdly crass and banal of a story. Super guttural and like really human in a way, but in like a disturbing way. It's called Drugs and Sex. Just like really low vibrational, but fundamentally human, but low vibrational, like animalistic elements of being a human. Nothing super elevated about this. They're competing with each other by producing children. By proxy. You're at least, it's like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's weird. I guess a moral on like the most basic level would be, this is why we don't do polygamy anymore. Like, it clearly doesn't have a good track record of working out in the Bible.
I mean, some people still do it. Shout out to Nigeria. But it's not harmonious.
It's a suboptimal social strategy.
Even when they're sisters? Really?
Especially when they're sisters.
But how? But they grew up together.
Yeah. So don't go around marrying multiple women at the same time.
My real moral or like point or like theme, I mean, I don't know. I think Denali doesn't really believe this, but I actually do. Even if it seems pretty harsh, I mean, it is harsh, God kind of evened out the unluckiness between Rachel and Leah. So Leah was like unlucky enough to be basically quoted as like not hot by the Bible. There have been probably so many not hot people in the Bible, but like most of them weren't called not hot. Her eyes are so weak, and that's what the Bible said about Leah, and it said it in direct comparison to her sister Rachel, who was good looking. So like that sucks. If you have a younger sister who's like so much prettier than you, maybe more charismatic, whatever, people like her more, and that's just like your position and the way you know yourself, and everyone knows you. This guy sees her and wants to marry her, and then your dad uses you as a pawn, and all of this kind of sucks. And then immediately the moment he wakes up, he's like, "Oh, who's that?" And you're like, "Oh, it's me." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't want to marry you." And it's like so many slaps in the face over and over and over. And that's not your fault. and it's not fair. Whatever. It's unlucky.
And it seems like the reason why he tricked Jacob is because he didn't think he could actually get a good bridal price for his oldest daughter.
Damn.
Cold that's why he did that.
So cold. Like, it's so sad.
That's savage.
It's it's savage. I mean, Laban was a savage in so many ways.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is Leah's life, for reasons that are beyond her control, seemed like really kind of suckish, like unfairly so. And it looks like Rachel was just, she had it made, pretty, everyone likes her. Jacob was willing to work 14 years, because he worked not 7 for Leah and 7 for Rachel. He worked 14 for Rachel and just got Leah some kind of unwanted bonus prize that he didn't even want.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that's sad and it sucks. But then once they get into the meat of things, only one of them starts having kids. Rachel doesn't, Leah does. And like Leah's having son after son after son, and they're these great boys, and they're tall, and they're whatever. They're just like, they're male. And also has daughters too, but that's not as relevant. The point is she's fertile, like super fertile, and having a ton of strong sons of Jacob. And like Rachel isn't. And Rachel's like miserable about it, and she's whining to everyone. And then finally, after years, not quickly, God kind of opens Rachel's womb a crack, and she's able to sneak at one kid, and then it's like still not open. And then like opens to the crack and she's able to sneak out another, and then she dies in that process. So like overall, how happy was her life, no matter how cute her face or how good her body looked or whatever it was that attracted her to people? Like, it's sad for all parties because Leah was like pathetic throughout the whole marriage. I mean, she had to bargain, she had to give her sister drugs to get her sister to get their shared husband to have sex with her. So like that's pathetic. And even she like ran out to tell him at her old age with like, not old, but whatever, she was a grown woman and she had these kids and she's like, you're gonna have sex with me tonight, like this is great. I sold some drugs for you and Rachel said I could have you, and he's like, So like everything about, I mean, Leah seemed pretty pathetic throughout the whole marriage, but Rachel's life was like sad and ended prematurely in childbirth, and she was like pretty miserable about it to the point that she named her kid like, I'm dying, and so therefore you are a sad boy. You're a sad boy now. So like sad life for a pretty girl, and like maybe a slightly happier life for an ugly girl. So like my moral / theme is like God is kind of fair, even if it seems really messed up.
That's interesting because like when Leah's servant had a kid, she was like, I'm so happy, like this is the happiest day of my life, and she named her kid Happy, right? Her kid by proxy. Yeah. And Rachel named her kid Super Sadness. Because like that's the difference. Like when she had kids, if you're dying and like all you can think of is
this sucks.
Yeah.
I'm
just saying, like, that's kind of like a tragic story.
It's so tragic. All she ever wanted was to have kids. She cried about it. And then having a kid, her last kid, only second, was what killed her. And she cried about that too. It was all just tears the whole time. I mean, she did have some fun moments though, which are not in this episode. We're going to tell them to you eventually.
Oh yeah. I was actually going to talk about that. So I was going to say like the series title is called Jacob and His Tricks, about all these tricks people play on each other. And like it doesn't have a moral in and of itself if you just look at it like alone. Like you look at the broader scope of things, like in a way it kind of like shows like the unintended consequences of like people's dishonest actions, how they can end up being really bad. It's not so much, it's like all these actions that happened because people tricked each other in the beginning. It led to like all these, that set in motion these like this series of like events that is kind of tragic. And next week we kind of learn how these sisters do get their revenge on their father. Minor revenge. But still a little bit.
Yeah.
So tune in next week. Bye.